y'all. Welcome back to the Y'all Are Crazy Ranch podcast. We're excited today to talk more about what it's really like living on our family's ranch. We're going to get more into the dynamics of actually ranching, what it's like to live around our animals, and just to do things a little differently, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to share with you guys our philosophy of our ranch and how we operate it. The beliefs behind like how we raise our animals and manage our pastures and some of the practices that we implement, versus some other more conventional ways. Actually, I think our way is conventional, but they've changed that nowadays. But anyway, we're going to have a good discussion about regenerative ranching is what we do and what all that entails. And yeah.
Okay, so I've told you guys before, I grew up on a ranch. My dad raised cattle. My mom rode horses. So I grew up like in the country lifestyle, and you did not. You didn't grow up around cattle.
Nope.
So it was a new thing for you. And when we first got married, I don't even think we thought about having cows or livestock or even living on a ranch, right?
I never crossed my mind.
I don't think we ever thought about it. So I don't know, maybe 10 years into our marriage, we bought a lot of land. We bought 40 acres at that time. And we're like, what if we just bought some cows to help manage this grass,
Yeah.
And we started off with 2 Holstein steers.
I forgot about them, old Bug and Chug.
So we bought them
Remember
from my brother. And if you know anything about a Holstein steer, first of all, Holstein is like a milk cow. And so when you got a steer, they don't produce milk.
Yep.
So they're kind of worthless in a sense. However, they do eat grass.
I forgot about those 2 guys.
Yeah. They were super tall cows.
Oh, they're giants. Yeah, they're big cows. And yeah.
Then I've always wanted goats. I grew up with 1 goat. So we had 1 goat. Her name was Daisy when I was a kid, and she was just funny. And so I'm like, I really want goats someday. Now, we did have goats on our 10 acres prior to this. So we did kind of become familiar with goats throughout that time. And they were such a mess. They got their heads stuck in fences all the time. And we just laughed at them. We made them a little playground out there. So we knew we wanted to keep goats.
Yeah. Yeah, and the neighbors would always call, hey, your goat's got its head stuck. And I'm like,
shove it back through.
I know. Either you shove it back through or I'll get it when I get home. But it is what it is because I'll put his head back through and 30 minutes later, he'll be stuck again in another part of the fence.
Exactly.
And those things are just...
You kind of have a love-hate relationship with goats. And I think John, our ranch manager, can attest to that. I believe the only reason he agrees that we should keep them is because of my love for them.
Oh, if it wasn't for that, yeah, they'd be gone.
Yeah, because they are a mess.
Yeah, they're a pain to manage.
But they are fun, and they do eat everything.
And they make you laugh.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
And they stand up on their hind legs and reach up, and they're eating leaves off of trees.
And they're on top of everything. So you'll drive by, and you can guarantee a goat's going to be on top of the hay bale.
Yeah, if you put a hay bale or, we roll our hay bales out when we're feeding them. We run them across, string them out, 100 yards or however long it'll go. But sometimes there'll be like a clump left at the end or something. It'll fall off. And sure enough, that goat will be just right on top of it.
That's why I love them.
Yeah.
And there is nothing cuter than a baby goat.
Yeah. So, baby lambs are pretty cute.
The goats take it, though.
You like the goats better.
So that's kind of our history with ranching. I think once we had a couple cows, we're like, hey, let's try some longhorns. They're really pretty. Let's talk about some of the great things with the longhorns because they do have a lot of great factors.
Yeah, I mean, we call them yard ornaments because they're pretty to look at. And, they're all different colors, different patterns. Their
great
horns,
to photograph
are unique.
They are so pretty.
Yeah, so it's just neat to look out there and see, and when each one looks different instead of just like a sea of black cows or a sea of red cows, you also kind of know which one is which, and then they all have their own personalities, and it's kind of neat, But they're also not worth near as much as a black cow or a red cow. So
they're much skinnier. They don't have as much fat. Yeah. They're just a thinner cow. Some good things about them is they're incredibly hardy. They don't require a lot of medical needs and medical attention.
No, I think they're the most hardy breed out there. They're tough tough as a boot, you know.
They also birth very easily, and I think it's because they have like their hips and the baby's hips, and they're all thin, right?
Yeah, so we don't have to, a lot of times the black Angus cows, you've got to be ready when you start calving because you might have to go pull one, And if for y'all that don't know what pulling one means,
I grew up watching my dad pull calves, and
that means you stick your arm in the back end of a cow and grab the calf and pull.
Or you
hook a chain up to it or whatever and pull, but you're pulling it out of the cow. Helping the cow give birth.
And with
basically.
our Longhorns, we've never had to pull one.
No, and when we started, we didn't have a ranch manager or people to help us, and it was like, I'm busy working, you're busy working. I didn't want to have to pull calves and pay attention to all that. I wanted something that would be more self-sufficient, and Longhorns are very self-sufficient in the cattle space, and they're also, like you said, they don't get that fat, so they're very lean. Some people like that because they're a heart-healthy, lean animal.
Right.
And people that want not as much fat, like Longhorns. But, they don't get as fat and as big. And, I wouldn't say that you process them into steaks, unless you're like pumping them full of corn and stuff. They're not going to be super fat, juicy steaks.
Yeah, which I love to eat.
Yeah. So, but they're fun. And so, yeah. But now we're switching to a South Pole breed, which looks a lot like a red Angus. It's a red cow. And they are very, some of their characteristics are they get really fat on grass. They're short and stocky. Mm-hmm. And they do really good in hot climates.
Good, all good for Oklahoma.
All good for Oklahoma, because here in the summertime in August, it gets hot. Mm-hmm. And, you want cows that will be out there in the sun grazing and, not just gravitating underneath trees all the time and getting in the shade. And they'll still do that some, but you want some that'll be efficient in the hot summer months. And so the South Poles are. So we're keeping our Longhorn mama cows, but we've got a South Pole bull. His name is Adam. And
he was the first of the line.
He's the first of our new line we're creating. And so we had our first batch of calves last year. From Adam and the Longhorns, and most of them are red, pretty solid. Some of them still have some other color to them, but none of them have horns anymore. And eventually we'll have a lot of red South Pole cows out there. So yeah.
So changing it up a little bit, we also have sheep and we have ranch dogs, and they protect our goats, sheep, and cattle. So the ranch dogs live on the ranch. They're very efficient, and they are true dogs. I was telling somebody the other day, it's actually pretty cool to watch dogs in their natural environment, because in our society, like when you have a dog, you take care of it and you give it food and you provide shelter for it. And when it has puppies, like you shelter them. And these dogs, obviously we still have to feed them dog food, and they have a pond that they drink out of. But when they have babies, they totally 100% take care of them.
Oh, yeah.
So they birth them themselves, and then they take them away, dig a big den, and put the babies in there for safety. And they just totally take care of them. Like they pick them up one by one, carry them. They're guardians for them. And it's kind of beautiful to watch.
It's neat, but it's funny when you talk to people in society now, because the pet thing has gone way too extreme, in my opinion. People treat pets like they're humans,
Unpopular opinion.
Unpopular
time.
opinion.
Are you guys
Sorry
ready for this?
You get mad at me because I'm saying Scruffy's not a human, but he's not. And but they treat him like that, and they spend all sorts of money on them. And I get it. You get a relationship with the animal, and I get it. But we've taken it too far, in my opinion. And then when people learn about our ranch dogs, and they're like, "Oh, you got a dog house?" And it's like, no.
Well, for these kind of dogs, you really don't want
these
that.
dogs. They wouldn't even get in it anyway.
They wouldn't like it.
You could put a dog house out there in the middle of the pasture, and they probably would never get in it.
No.
When you watch a dog like that in their actual natural element, it's amazing to watch them thrive. I mean, they're with those sheep, they're with those goats, the cows, anything that comes around. I mean, they
They protect their territory.
We haven't seen a coyote one in any of our stuff.
Well, you can tell even when we go out there, even though we're out there a lot, they don't like us necessarily being out there because they are guarding their animals and they take possession over them. So you can only imagine if a coyote tried to come in there, that is not happening.
Yeah. They'll ask us, your dogs, you give them all their shots and they're this and they're that, and they take them to the vets. And I was like, are you crazy? I was like, number one, you can't catch that thing. You want to go catch that dog? That dog, it ain't going to let you just pick it up and take it somewhere.
Now, we do sell our ranch puppies, and we have sold a lot.
Yeah.
But we do still have some left. So if you need some ranch
We've got
dog
9
puppies,
left,
reach
and
out.
they're true ranch guardian dogs. Now, you could domesticate them, and some of the people that have bought them from us have.
Yes, one of my friends bought one, and I'm like, you can't play with it. You can't make it a pet if you want it to guard your chickens and your goats.
Yeah.
I told her that, and I knew she would be able to, and she's like, he's in the house now.
Yeah.
She's in the house now. So yeah,
they'll turn into great pets, but it's
Yes.
like if you want them to do a job and they want to do a job, it's their natural instinct. You have to leave them alone. You have to leave them with the animals. And now when we go feed them and stuff, some of them come up and you can pet them, and most of them don't though. They stand about 5 feet away and they just.
Our daughter has a hard time not petting them, and she will.
Oh yeah.
She'll make a pet out of them when she goes out there.
Yeah.
The other
That's
day
funny.
she found one. I think she named him Harold, and he was like on her lap. She's petting him, and then we ended up selling him that week. And she's like, "You sold Harold?" But yeah, he found a new home.
I was like, Harold's got to go, babe. Harold's got to go.
But maybe it made him easier to catch when John went to catch him because she had broken him a little bit.
Yeah, no, it did for sure. And so let's talk about like some of the what does it mean to even be a regenerative ranch and kind of
sure.
how we do things.
This is a little bit, I think, of a buzzword right now because so many more people are learning where their food comes from and wanting to eat in a healthier way. And like, organic has been a big thing for a while now of no sprays and pesticides. And so you might have heard this term. So today you're going to learn a little more.
Yeah, and I just want to hit like some just high level bullet points. I'm not going to get into the science behind it. I've read several books on it, and you can get as nerded out on that kind of stuff as you want. But we're going to keep it pretty simple, high level overview. But yeah, regenerative is becoming a buzzword like organic did several years ago. And those of us that watch, healthy food and how things are made, even organic nowadays can't be trusted all the way.
Right.
Because it might just mean they don't use these kind of chemicals, but they can still use some of these others. Or, there's still a little bit of a lack of trust. But I say organic is still overall better than not.
Yes.
But anyway, what regenerative is in a nutshell, we're trying to ranch with nature the way God made it, and not intervene with chemicals.
Yes, which is actually much more cost effective because you're not buying a bunch of chemicals.
Yeah. So in other words, like our pastures, we don't spray them with weed killer. We don't put nitrogen fertilizer down. We also don't till up the soil. We use our animals to graze the grass and then to fertilize the ground and the soil and feed the soil and create like a full cycle of life is the goal.
It all goes back to like, how did God create it? Let's try to get as close to that as we can.
Yeah.
Which is such a, it just makes sense. Like so many things in life, it's like, well, God made it that way, so let's try to do it that way.
Yeah, and we're not by any means dogging on anybody that ranches differently. Like, hey, to each their own. Do your own thing. Papa used to tell me when people would do different things, he's like, well, son, that's why they make strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla.
That's right.
Right? And so just remember that. You might spray everything, do stuff. That's totally fine. We're not bashing that. This is just what we feel convicted of how we want to raise things. But, when I started to learn that like soil health was a big deal. And I remember like sometimes as a kid going to hunting and stuff like that, you dig in the dirt and find earthworms, right? And you think about it now and it's like, You don't see those very much anymore.
Yeah, unless we have a really big rain or something.
Yeah, and usually then you see them in the streets, But if you wanted to go just dig in the dirt and get some earthworms and go fishing, most ranches you can't do that. And a lot of that starts because they kill the life in the soil with the chemicals they put down. And a lot of ranchers don't even quite understand that. But when you go like fertilize the pasture, as an example, you put a bunch of nitrogen down there, that burns up a lot of the microbes in the soil, kills them, dead, right? And then your grasses become reliant on that chemical to grow because it's the only thing making it go. But because the soil life is toast. You go spray everything and kill every weed in the pasture except for Bermuda grass. Well, now you don't have any diversity in your pastures, and you're not getting butterflies. You're not getting bees. You're not getting all the life that comes in and pollinates things and creates other life, right? If you think about like the circle of life, everything feeds off something else.
Right.
So
Once
it's
again,
like
God made it that way, and there's always a reason behind it.
yeah, and then like if you worm your animals all the time. So we don't worm our animals unless they have to be wormed, okay? But you give them these worming medicines and they go out and they poop in the pasture, and it's like that worming medicine goes into the soil and then it kills like the dung beetles as an example and kills some of those insects that would break down those manure piles, but they don't because it kills them. And then so now the soil doesn't get fed, and it breaks the chain of everything, And so we believe it's important to work with nature and not against it. And then also, like, if you think about, like, just the thought of spraying chemicals all over everything, and then you get your animals out there and they just go eat it all.
Yeah.
I mean, and then it's growing the meat that you are then going to consume, right?
Yeah.
That just doesn't make me feel very good.
Yeah, that's true too. I think there's so much we can do when we just think about, how did God make this? Is this necessary? Do I need to actually do this? I think of it a lot like having babies. Like, there's so many things when you have a baby that the doctors are like, you need to do this. You need to take this test. You need to do this. Once again, you have the right to choose, and you can say no. And there's so many things that you can say no to because it's, you get to choose. You have your own mind. You get to choose. And I think so many times if you just think of, how did God create this? God created my body to do this. And so he's going to help this come into fruition.
Yeah. And I'll ask sometimes other ranchers, and they're talking to us about how we're doing things. And I'm like, so why do you give your cows all those shots? Well, they'll just say, that's the way we've always done it.
Right.
And it's like, but why? A lot of them never even thought that way. It's just they were told to do that, and that's just what they do. You see what I'm saying? And, for us, we're trying to think about why, and a lot of times it doesn't make sense. Now, that doesn't mean if you got a sick animal and something problem, you got to go help the animal out. But what you'll learn is a lot of times that you're going to build a more resilient animal and then a resilient herd and then a healthier product for people to eat. Now, because we don't spray for everything and do all that, it does require more labor to manage the animals.
True.
But I think it's cool because so we move our animals in the grazing season, like in the spring and summer. We're moving them sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. So what we'll do is we'll have little hot wire, like we call them paddocks, but just imagine maybe a square area of a few acres, and we let all the cows in there, and we keep them kind of in that smaller area with hot wire fences. And the hot wire fence is just like a thread, and you just roll it up on a reel, and we'll let them graze there for a few hours. And you imagine all those animals right there, they're pooping and peeing and walking and trampling, and it's just fertilizing that soil. They're eating all the grass there, and then we'll take that hot wire, lift it, and let them go have some more fresh grass. You see what I'm saying? And they'll work their way around, and they'll eat a lot of those weeds that would be killed. And what other people don't realize too is those weeds that are growing. They have different nutrients and minerals and vitamins and stuff in them that the Bermuda grasses don't have. And sometimes those animals need that nutrients.
True.
And if you've killed it all, they don't get it.
Well, and also when you give them free range of an entire pasture, they're not going to eat the weeds because they have better choices. But when they're in a contained space,
point, babe.
they're like,
Yes.
well, this is all I have, so I guess I better eat this.
Yeah, a great analogy on that would be like if we as humans went to a buffet.
Yeah.
Right? And there's 30 different items to choose from to eat. We're not going to eat all 30 of them. We're going to pick the ones that we like the best.
And like, yeah, because you can't consume all 30.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you've got 100 acres out there, most people don't move their cows every day or multiple times a day. They just have a barbed wire fence around the perimeter, and the animals are just out there all the time, and they just do whatever the heck they want to do. Well, what happens is that animal will go and they'll just eat their favorite stuff down to the dirt. And then all of a sudden there's no grass, and then you get rains come in, and then it creates ruts and it creates runoff. You have to manage the animals and manage the land, and that's what we do. So it does take more labor, but you're amongst your animals all the time, which I think is a lot of fun. And then it also gets the animals more used to you. They're calmer. I mean, they're more peaceful,
Yeah.
And then you're able to spot problems and stuff like that. But it's really, a deal where you're raising the animals, but you're healing the land at the same time. Some of our land out here was just overgrown with cedar trees. You couldn't even ride a four-wheeler on it. There were so many cedar trees. And we've cleared them all. We've bulldozed it. We've got grass growing again. And then we're running the animals across it. And we know like we're just healing that land little by little. And that's cool to know.
And once you get started doing that, I know we go other places and you're like, look at all those cedar trees. Well, you would have never noticed that before. But now that we're taking so many out and doing this, you notice things like that.
Yeah. And so, in the regenerative space, you let nature take its course and you try to work with nature. So that means, no vaccines for the most part, unless there's a medical issue that the vaccine would help the animal. But as the most part, you're just trying to let the animal live on the ground, or off of the ground, if that makes sense. And you're trying to create the circle of life. You're trying to feed the soil. You're trying to bring in the insects. I've noticed we've done this now for almost 3 years, but the ranch itself hasn't been sprayed in about maybe 8 years or so.
Yeah.
And just the amount of rabbits around now. I've noticed too, we've had an uptick in like the quail population. And I mean, if y'all know around here, it's like you don't see quail or hear them very much. And now we're hearing them a bunch.
What does a quail sound like?
It's like a little whistle. It's like,
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I learned something.
But they're feeding on like insects and stuff like that in the grasses, and they live in these clumps of grasses. And it's like, well, you've got the habitat for them now. And every time you bring in and create habitat for something else comes along.
We
it's
also
a chain.
let the sunflowers grow wild every summer.
Yeah.
And the sunflowers bring in a lot of life too.
Yes.
Not only are they really beautiful, but they bring in a lot of birds and wildlife.
They do. And it's like the more life we can bring onto our ranch, the better quality of food product that we'll be producing at the end of the day. The better our land will be healed and more vibrant. And the more vibrant your land is, the more animals you can raise because your ground is producing more grass to feed more animals.
Well, we also hunt on our ranch, and so deer and turkey, you want them to come on your land. And
Yes.
so that's a big deal for us too, because pretty much every time you and the boys go hunting, you see deer.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, rare, but I think our land has so much that the deer that offers the deer that they want to stay on it.
Yes. And so I think too, we started selling beef this year, and we sold out. I mean, it was kind of crazy. I didn't think we'd sell much, and
we didn't promote it a lot.
We didn't hardly promote it, and if you're selling beef, like you have to take on a lot of the upfront cost, right? We got to take the beef to the butcher, pay for the processing, pick it up, bring it here, buy freezers, store it in freezers. There's a lot of overhead involved.
Yes.
And so you're kind of nervous to like do too much because you're like, well, what if I don't sell it? Then I'm stuck with a bunch of beef and thousands of dollars worth of, but we sold out.
Yeah, this is a good time to say we have a waiting list going for meat, and it's going to be available this summer of 26. So if you want to get on our waiting list, go to our website.
Yeah, there's a contact us button on the website. Just put your name and
You can
email.
send us a Facebook message through the ranch. To let us know to get on our waiting list because it'll sell out again.
It will. And I think we'll have about 4,000 pounds worth of beef to sell this summer. And I hope we sell out. I think we will. I think people appreciate the regenerative ranch once they understand it and know that, like, the beef you buy from our ranch, as an example, was raised like with the utmost care, right? No chemicals, no stuff that you don't want in your own body, and you're getting just a super healthy product that you can feed your family and feel good about it. And I think that's worth a lot.
Yeah, and like we said, anytime you can work with the way God created things, it's just going to go better. Mm-hmm. God created things the way he did for a reason, for a purpose. And when you really look at that and understand it, you see God in everything. It's one of those things that once you see God in something, you can't not see him. And then
Very
you
true.
see him in everything. So it's like, even like you said, like the birds and the butterflies and the beetles in the ground, like, it's very easy to overlook those things.
Oh, yeah.
But you get so excited now when you see a beetle.
I do. I was going to...
You do, and it's kind of a nerd thing, but he's like, look at this beetle, and you video this beetle. Well, normally that's something you would overlook, but when you are healing your soil and looking for these changes and then you see it, that's exciting.
It takes time, okay? So if you're out there and you're like, well, I'm going to start ranching this away, I'm just going to tell you, it takes several years, patience, and hard work.
But you can do it.
You can do it, but it is not an overnight fix. But I remember our ranch manager, John, he kind of grew up in the way of, like, you spray your fields every year and just you run that play. And I remember when we first started getting dung beetles back like 2 years ago, he was sending me videos, and you've got life going on in the soil, and a cow will, like, drop a manure pat, and then, I don't know, in a matter of a couple of days, it's gone. And it's like, whoa. But if you're on a ranch that doesn't do that, and they, like, give their cattle wormer all the time, and they spray their fields, those patties, like, just stay there. Nothing breaks them down. And it's just a whole different deal. But when we started seeing that life coming back, it's exciting.
Well, the things you don't think about.
You don't think about.
These are conversations we have. I don't think these are normal conversations.
They're not normal,
but
it's
welcome
fun.
to the Y'all Are Crazy Ranch,
It is.
because we do things differently, but we also try to do them the way God intended them, and to us, that's very logical.
To us, it's logical, yeah. And I'd say the last point, if people are out there and they're wanting to, some of them are looking into the grass-fed beef or lamb, and then they know about grass-finished, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a difference, because some people will say this animal is grass-fed, but then the last 90 days of their life, they pump them full of corn, right? Well, it lived its life on grass, but then it got pumped full of corn at the end. And there's people out there that don't want their animal pumped full of corn. Again, you think about, like, what's natural and what's not. A cow doesn't live a life and then all of a sudden eat corn for 90 days. And it'd be like us going and getting put in captivity and just pounding donuts forever to get as fat as possible, and then they butcher it, Now, some people like corn-finished beef, and it does taste good too, but some like grass-finished, and ours would be grass-fed and grass-finished. We would butcher ours after the spring flush of the growth of the grass, get them as fat as possible of those months on the grass, and then they would go to the butcher. Never fed corn, never fed cubes, just grass only their entire life. Some people don't like that. Some people love it. But I just want y'all to know, as the audience, that's how we do it.
Yeah, so once again, if you want to buy beef starting this summer, get on our waiting list, because we will sell out. You can send us a message on our Facebook page or go to our website, y'allarcrazyranch.com, and fill out a form on the Contact Us to get on the list.
Yeah. So anything else we missed?
I think this is a good overall view of regenerative I can't say this word. Say it.
Regenerative.
Regenerative ranching.
You know, you're regenerating life.
Regenerating. There you go.
Yes.
Regenerative. That's kind of a hard word to say. But nevertheless, hopefully this gave you an overall view, what it looks like, what it means. Like maybe you want to start doing this on your land, or we hear so many young couples, young families who are like, we want to do that. Well, maybe you needed to hear this podcast.
Yeah.
And it'll help you possibly create that on your own place. Or maybe you're just a consumer of meat, and we love meat. There's nothing I love more than a good steak. So maybe it helps you know, like, to look at where does your meat come from?
Yes.
And how does it all work? So hopefully this was enjoyable and interesting.
Yeah. I remember I made a Facebook post a while back of the comparison of ground beef, you know, like from our ranch versus the kind you buy at the store.
Yeah.
And just the color difference in the two. And that's a stark contrast.
Yeah, when you see beef from our ranch and ranches like ours, it's very much more red. And from a store,
it's like a deep purple.
Yeah.
Like you can look, and then you look at the store and it's like pink, you know, and you're like, how do you even get that color? You know, it makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Thanks for tuning in today. Hope it was interesting. Hopefully you learned some things, and we'll see you next time.
till next time.